The fraud alert came in at 6:14 that morning. I remember the exact time because I stared at it for several seconds before I was fully awake. At first, I thought it was a mistake. 3 purchases, thousands of dollars, all made between 2:07 and 2:41 a.m. A sneaker boutique, an electronics store, another electronics store. I opened my banking app and felt my stomach drop. The account balance was nearly empty, $9,000 gone. For a few moments, I just sat there in bed, trying to make sense of it. Then I noticed something else. My wallet wasn't on my nightstand. It was half hidden beneath a chair across the room. I already knew. My brother Tyler was 17, old enough to know exactly what he was doing. Young enough that my parents still described every bad decision as a phase. I found him downstairs. Brand new shoe boxes sat beside the couch. A sealed PS5 rested on the coffee table. An unopened iPhone box was balanced on his knee while he watched videos. He didn't even look nervous. "Did you take my card?" He glanced up, a pause, then a shrug. "I was going to tell you." That answer somehow made it worse. "You spent $9,000. It wasn't that much." I laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because sometimes your brain refuses to process what it's hearing. My parents entered the kitchen before I could say anything else. My mother looked between us. "What happened now?" I explained briefly. Factually, my father sighed before I even finished. The sigh irritated me more than the theft. The sigh meant they had already decided who the problem was. "You're overreacting," he said. "Overreacting," I repeated. "He's just a kid." There it was, the sentence that had followed my brother through his entire life, when he wrecked someone's bicycle at 12. When he got suspended at 14, when he borrowed money and never returned it. He's just a kid. Every year the excuse got older. I looked at Tyler. He wasn't worried. Why would he be? Nothing had ever happened before. My mother folded her arms. "He's family." As if family explained theft. As if family erased consequences. For a moment I considered arguing, listing every reason they were wrong, reminding them that $9,000 wasn't a small mistake. Then I realized something. They weren't listening. They had already chosen their version of events. So I stopped talking. That confused them more than anger would have. I simply returned to my room. My father called after me. "Don't make this bigger than it is." I almost answered. Instead, I closed the door because there was one detail none of them knew. The account wasn't really mine. Not entirely. The money belonged to a trust administration firm where I worked. 3 years earlier, after finishing college, I'd joined a small financial services company. One of my responsibilities involved managing temporary escrow funds connected to client transactions. The account Tyler emptied wasn't my personal checking account. It was a monitored business account. Every transaction was recorded. Every irregular withdrawal triggered review procedures. Every dollar had documentation attached to it. I had transferred money there the previous afternoon while preparing paperwork for a scheduled transaction. Tyler had no idea. My parents certainly didn't. By noon, my manager called. I explained everything before she could ask. The silence on the other end lasted longer than I expected. Finally, she said, "We'll need to file a formal report." I already knew that was company policy. There was no exception for younger brothers. No exception for family loyalty. No exception for parents who believed consequences were optional. The meeting happened 2 days later. My parents attended because they insisted they could clear everything up. I don't think they understood what kind of meeting it was. They expected a conversation. Instead, they walked into procedures, documentation, statements, verification records. A compliance officer sat across from us, not angry, not emotional, just professional. He reviewed timestamps, purchase histories, store confirmations, datrench logs. Then he looked directly at my parents. The funds were taken without authorization. His voice remained calm. The purchases were intentional and traceable. My mother tried explaining that Tyler was young. The officer listened politely, then said something I'll probably remember forever. "Age may affect how certain matters are handled. It does not change whether the funds were taken." The room became very quiet. For the first time, nobody rushed to rescue Tyler from the reality of what he'd done. Nobody minimized it. Nobody called me dramatic. The facts simply existed. And facts don't care about family narratives. I watched my brother sitting beside our parents. He suddenly looked younger than he had in our kitchen, not because he was innocent, because he was realizing that the outside world wasn't built around protecting him. The investigation eventually concluded. Most of the purchases were recovered before they could be fully processed. Some funds were reimbursed through a combination of returned merchandise and repayment arrangements. Financially, the damage became manageable. Emotionally, things were less simple. My parents never gave the apology I imagined. There was no dramatic speech, no moment of perfect understanding. My father eventually admitted they should have taken the situation seriously from the beginning. My mother mostly avoided discussing it. Tyler became quieter. Whether that came from guilt or embarrassment, I honestly don't know. What changed wasn't them. Not entirely. What changed was me. For years, I had treated fairness as something I needed to convince people to give me. That experience taught me something different. Sometimes accountability arrives from places that aren't emotional at all. Not through arguments, not through winning, not through revenge. Just through reality finally reaching people who thought they were protected from it. The strange thing is that I never felt victorious, relieved, maybe vobilated, but not victorious. $9,000 was eventually accounted for. Trust wasn't. And trust turned out to be the more expensive thing we lost.